Okay, good morning, students. Let us start today's discussion. So, in the last few lectures, we have been discussing about the PN junction, and in the last lecture, we tried to understand qualitatively first how the what happens when we put P and N type of materials together, and then later we try to look at quantitatively, and as well as we also try to look at energy band diagram of PN junction. So here on the screen you can see the animated version of the PN junction, how it looks like. So when we are in the forward bias, that is the anode side or the P side. Okay, so this is the P side, and here it is N side. So when we put P side at positive voltage as compared to the N side, then this is equivalent to the forward bias. Whereas when we have opposite polarities on the battery, okay, suppose say that the N side is positive at positive potential as compared to the anode side, then we have the reverse biasing, and we can see that how the charges are being transferred from uh, say N side to P side and P side to N side in the forward bias, and how these charges are repelled back into their regions in the reverse bias. Okay, so in the reverse bias, we see the so-called as depletion region, and as we increase the reverse biasing voltage, we can see the depletion region to be growing. So already we have seen just this diode current equation, which is also called as Shockley equation. So in this equation we have I, the diode current. Sometimes also this is also called as ID is equal to I naught times exponential B D upon eta VT minus 1. Okay, so we don't have derivations of these. Okay, mostly this is also, we can say that it is a kind of empirical equation which tries to fit the IB characteristic of the diode, PN junction diode. So BD is the voltage applied across the diode, and VT is KT by Q here, thermal equivalent voltage, and its value at 300 degrees kelvins is 0.026 volt or 26 millivolt. So these are the typical values here. We can see one more parameter eta here. Eta is called as emission coefficient here. So it just represents how efficiently uh, the carriers are emitted from N to P and P to N in the forward bias. So if its value is large, it means the efficiency is less. Okay, emission coefficient is less means uh, the current is large actually, and if its value is large, then the efficiency of emission of the cadets are less. Okay, so we can see that eta is coming in the denominator in the exponent. Okay, so larger value of this eta will result into a smaller value of the exponent, and hence a smaller growth. So the effect, if we try to visualize, then say if eta is equal to, say it is say 1, then eta 2 will be even slower, like this. Sorry, eta is equal to 2. Okay, So for a small value of the horizontal axis is a VD and the vertical axis is the ID here. This is a uh, curve for the current versus voltage. So if eta is less, then we have a sharper rise here as compared to eta having a larger value. In the reverse bias also the same equation can be seen to be valid because the exponent in the exponent the VD will become minus BD for the reverse bias, and that is going to decay exponentially. So the first term actually is very small for in the reverse bias condition, and we have effectively minus I. Okay, so I naught is a current which is there even it is in the reverse bias. Okay, so I naught this current. Okay, this is also called as reverse saturation current. Okay, so reverse saturation current, let us try to understand qualitatively what is happening here in reverse saturation, why it is there. Uh, let us first qualitatively understand why it is there. So suppose we take a PN junction here and we are reverse biasing it. So reverse biasing already we have seen that on the P side we put a negative voltage as compared to the N side. So this is the reverse bias condition. In this reverse bias condition, we have a so-called depletion region between P and N type of materials, and there is inbuilt electric field also induced. There is a potential barrier. Everything is there. Okay, so electric field is facing from N side to the P side, and there is a potential barrier. So now in this situation here, we have already seen that the holes of the P side will remain in the P side, the electrons of the N side will remain in the N side. But if we talk about the minority charge carriers, that is electrons in the P side and holes in the N side, they also randomly move here and there. They may come into the contact here of this region and may swept across this region. Okay, so one cause may be due to this, another cause is also there. Okay, at any temperature there is a an energy already we have seen AT by Q. Okay, thermal energy is there, which may be just enough to break down some covalent bonds. Okay, so we have seen that due to this thermodynamic process, electron and hole pairs may generate. Electron and hole pairs may generate throughout this okay system, PN system. But electron and holes generated say in the P side or N side, they are not going to affect much. But if there is eventually some electron hole pair generated in the depletion region, then there is no chance of recombining them, and they actually are swept in the opposite directions. So electrons will be swept toward the N region and holes, they will be swept towards the P region. So this is another cause here, and these two together may form a small current even though it is reverse biased. Okay, so because this process is dependent on thermal energy, the value of I naught doesn't much depend on the value of the reverse biasing voltage. More or less, this I naught value is constant for a given kind of PN junction. Okay, so this is almost constant. That's why we say it as a saturation current. Okay, and it is happening in the reverse biasing condition. That's why we say it as a reverse saturation current. Okay, so I naught is mostly constant in a given range and a given range of voltage. We will see okay in very soon. Uh, so uh, for different now in this graph, as you can see, for different okay, PN junctions made of different materials, germanium, silicon, gallium arsenide. Okay, so germanium and silicon, these are the elemental semiconductors, whereas gallium arsenide is a compound semiconductor. So other of these can be used to make our junction here. One thing which is very clear here, that for germanium, the so-called as knee voltage or potential barrier is 0.3 volt least here. Uh, Silicon is having a knee voltage of 0.7 volt here, and that for the gallium arsenide is largest here, 1.2. So other things, okay, we can see that each of these diodes, they are giving similar characteristic. Only the thing is that the um, knee voltage or the potential barrier is different for these. Okay, so they give those characteristics of diode like, okay, after a larger or we can say for a different values of the voltages. Suppose we try to get a say some given current here, say 20 milliampere here in this case, then we will be require a different values of the voltages for these different diodes. Okay, so say around 0.4 voltage may be required by germanium, 0.8 may be say required by say silicon, and say 1.3 voltage may be required by gallium arsenide. Okay, something like that. Okay, also because the uh, energy required to break the covalent bonds is going to be different for different materials here, and so is the current here I naught. Okay, we can see. So in the reverse direction, the gallium arsenide is having least current because of high energy band gap. Okay, then comes the silicon, and then it is coming the germanium. So in the germanium, it is easiest to break down the covalent bonds. Okay, and the mobility of the electrons are also large. So that's why in the reverse direction here we can see the large current for the germanium and least current for the gallium arsenide. Okay, there is some more characteristic here for very large, really large values of the reverse biasing voltage. Okay, we shall discuss about these later on. For now, it is sufficient to understand that this is actually entering into something called as breakdown region. Okay, so these are actually breakdown regions in which we can see very large current to flowing in the reverse direction as well. So devices having two electrode is called a diode here. For the simplest semiconductor device, okay, this device is actually semiconductor device. We should not mistake here that the resistance is having also two terminals and capacitor and so on. Okay, so this is about the semiconductor device. The simplest one is the diode. So the arrow, okay, already we know that it shows the forward direction. Another question could be like this: due to forward biasing, what happens to depletion region? So in the forward bias, the depletion region narrows, whereas in the reverse biasing, the depletion region is going to grow. So already we have seen, okay, all these points. You can have a glimpse here. Next, we shall discuss about some of the parameters. Okay, some of the parameters of the diodes. So far we try to understand the working principle of the diode, and then we try to look at the variation of the current through diode in the forward bias and the reverse bias. And now we try to say characterize the diode using some parameters. So first parameter here we look at is DC static resistance. So in the IV characteristic of the diode, if we choose any point, so here say it is chosen here in this point, then the ratio of the corresponding values of voltage and the current gives something called as resistance. So we can see that this resistance, if we choose say some different point here on the characteristic, then this is going to have a different set of corresponding values of ID and BD. And so we can say that as the voltage is changed, the resistance of this diode or this DC resistance, okay, of the diode is going to change accordingly. So this is not a constant value. This is going to change. But if suppose we fix the voltage, then there is a corresponding value of the current. Okay, so for a fixed value of voltage, there is a fixed value of the current, and the ratio we can say is the DC. Okay, so voltage is not changed actually. This is a DC voltage. So in the forward bias, we can define this resistance as forward biasing voltage, corresponding value of the forward biasing voltage, and the corresponding value of the forward current. Similarly, we can also define the value in for the reverse bias condition by taking the ratio of the reverse bias voltage to the reverse bias current. So reverse bias voltage actually may be increased, but we have seen that this reverse bias current mostly doesn't increase. So one can say that as reverse bias voltage is increased, this resistance is increasing actually. Okay, so this is also not a fixed value because I naught is mostly fixed here. Okay, almost constant reverse saturation current. whereas one is trying to increase the reverse bias voltage, it will seem that as reverse bias voltage is increased, the resistance is increasing, whereas one can see that in the forward bias, in, one can see that in the forward bias, the as the voltage is increased, there is more increase in the current. Okay, for a small change in the voltage, forward bias voltage, there is a large change in the current. Okay, so because of this, this tends to decrease. Okay, as voltage Vf is increased, then this resistance Rf is going to decrease. Whereas in the reverse bias, one can say that as Br is increased, then RR is going to also increase. Okay, so that kind of trend one can see in the forward bias and reverse bias resistance. Another parameter here we can define is something called as dynamic resistance. What is the need of dynamic resistance? Because most of the time we will see that it is not the DC voltage which is being applied on the across the diode, but there is some varying voltage. Okay, alternating voltage or current that is applied across the diode. Okay, of course, the amplitude of this applied AC uh, signal may be small or large. Okay, small means of the order of say millivolts, uh, amperes kind of thing. So, or even smaller than that. And large means actually in other voltages, some few voltages or few say few tenths, okay, amperes of current. Okay, so those things we can see for now, small and large, but that is not a good definition of small and large. So if this is the case, then we have already seen that as we move on the characteristic, then there is a change in the resistance. Okay, so we don't have a single value of the resistance, rather it is changing. Okay, so if we are in a small region of operation, okay, when this signal is small, then variation may be small here. Okay, and we can actually assume as if it is a linear kind of thing here in this small region of operation, and we can for this region we can define a single value of this resistance. Okay, so that value of the resistance we mostly call as dynamic resistance. Okay, so dynamic resistance we define as a change in the voltage to the change in the current. So here we take the changes in the voltage and currents, rather taking the absolute values. Absolute values are changing. Okay, so whether we define this, this is more generally accepted. Okay, this dynamic resistance is more generally accepted when the input signal is small, that is when there is a small change in the BD, then there is a small resulting in current. That's what the idea is. So similar to the DC resistance, we can also define this for the forward bias and for the reverse bias also. Now another thing, let us this AC resistance is also sometimes called as dynamic resistance. So for a diode, we can have an expression for the this AC resistance or dynamic resistance. So starting from the this Shockley diode current equation, we can actually uh, define this dynamic resistance as change in the voltage divided by change in the current. So also we can actually define this as 1 upon change in the current divided by change in the voltage, something like this. So idea is here to find out this ratio first and then take the inverse of that. So for small changes in the current or voltage, this change actually becomes the derivative. So here we actually trying to find out del id upon del vd first, and from here we will try to calculate this dynamic resistance. Okay. So one is writing this equation in different forms like this here, and from here we try to calculate this did upon dvd rather now. So one can calculate very easily like this here, and then in place of I naught exponential bd upon eta vt, we are having id plus I naught. Here in this equation we have I naught and exponential this. In place of these, if we replace this id plus I naught, then this equation can be written like this here. So now we can take the inverse of this. Okay, this inverse of this. Is there any question? Okay, so we can now define uh, this dynamic resistance RD to be equal to this value here. We can notice here that the forward bias current ID is very larger than I naught. Okay, so zero saturation current. So looking at this, we can neglect this I naught as compared to ID, and simply we can write the equation for this dynamic resistance given by eta Bt upon Id. So the values of eta already we have seen is 1 for germanium and 2 for silicon. This is just showing that how fast the current is changing with the applied voltage in the germanium or silicon. So larger value of eta gives a slower variation. Smaller value of eta gives a larger variation. Okay, so we can find out and this formula, okay, to compute the dynamic resistance. So knowing the value of the uh, diode current and ideality factor, sorry, this eta. Okay, so this is also sometimes called as ideality factor. Okay, so knowing the value of eta and id, we can find out this rd. Okay, so if eta value is not given, just by knowing that silicon, it is, we are say talking about silicon, then we will take eta is equal to 2, and if one is talking about germanium, then one will take the eta value equal to 1. So knowing the value of id, one can compute this rd. So few questions, solved questions actually are here. Uh, we will not do it here. Okay, so you can do these questions. Okay, you can find out examples, number of examples in your book. First, you can try to do those questions. Okay, and later on you can target some unsolved problems and then solve them. Here, after defining the dynamic resistance and DC resistance, actually one more resistance is similar to the dynamic resistance. We can see and we can define, but that is for large signals. Okay, it is similar to dynamic resistance. So in the dynamic resistance, we have assumed that the variation in the uh, VD is small, but if we say have some characteristic here like this, and we say that BD is varying by a large amount, so where we cannot actually say that it is a kind of linear variation, then also actually we can define an average resistance uh, that we call as large signal resistance. Okay, large signal AC resistance. So it is similar to that dynamic resistance or AC resistance which we have seen, and is defined as the ratio of this input voltage to the output current. Okay, so delta VD and delta ID. If it is ID and BD. So this is AC resistance delta VD upon delta ID. But here the difference is that we can see that this is not linear variation, because we are not changing the values by a small amount. So it is not a derivative kind of thing, but only the difference in the voltage and difference in the current we take and take the ratio. This is not a very accurate value. Okay, this is just for hand calculations. Okay, for accurate calculations, one can actually uh, see the one can actually look at each and every point, and the DC resistance that we have seen, and that is better suited. But one has to compute for each and every operating point. Okay, one more thing here. Let us see that if we fix a point on this uh, curve here, then that that point actually corresponds to a corresponding value of voltage and current, and this is also called as operating point. Okay, or quotient point. Most of the times we will see quotient point or operating point. So these words are also used. Yes, any questions? I think someone is trying to ask some question. Okay, so another parameter which is of interest is here capacitance. So capacitance offered by diode are of two types. One which is offered in the forward bias direction, and another which is offered in the reverse bias direction. So the capacitance which is offered by this diode in the forward bias is called as diffusion capacitance ED, and that which is offered in the reverse bias, that is called as junction capacitance CT. Okay, so two types of capacitances we see in the PN junction. What is the let us say that what is the genesis of this? Okay, from why we rather define this resistance, this capacitance? Okay, resistance was clear that in the characteristic we see that if there is a variation in the voltage, then there was a corresponding current. Okay, So we take the ratio of these two, similar to the Ohm's law, and define the quantity, the resistance. But from where this capacitance is coming into picture for the diodes? So this can be understood from this fact quickly, that when we take say PN junction, on one side of this junction we have the okay, suppose in the equilibrium condition BC, then we have seen that there becomes a depletion region is created, and on one side we see the negative charges, ions, okay, and on the other side we have positive charges. So on N side we have the positive donor ions, and on the P side we have the acceptor uh, ions, negative ions across this junction. So one thing here we can see, uh, and in this we see that and there is no charge, mobile charge carrier, okay. So actually this region is very similar to that of a kind of dielectric media, where some polarized charges are there, say donor ions and acceptor ions are there, but mobile charge carriers are not there. Okay, already we have understood why the mobile charge carriers are not found in this region. So, so this is just like a dielectric media, and this dielectric media is separating two regions here, P and N type of regions, in which on one side holes are there and on the other side electrons are there, of which conductivity is larger here. So actually it has similarity with a parallel plate capacitor, in which two conductive plates are separated by a dielectric media here, okay. Dielectric media here is actually having a unique nature, that if we apply the reverse bias voltage across this PN junction, then this dielectric media, okay, the width of this depletion region, okay, that increases, okay. So it is not a fixed parallel plate here, but it is a kind of parallel plate capacitor, in which the separation between the plates can be varied with the applied voltage across this. Okay, so this is not a fixed value, but may change here. And uh, this is actually behaving like a parallel plate, because with the applied voltage across this, the depletion charge increase, okay, depletion width increase, and we can see that outside of this depletion region uh, we have P type and N type of materials, okay, which are having good conductivity. So this behavior can be modeled as capacitive, to have a capacitive nature, and so we define the capacitance. So this is in the reverse bias. Similar is the case in the forward bias. Okay, so in the forward bias, let us try to understand qualitatively what is happening actually. Okay, then we can understand the set of equations, maybe if the time allows. Okay, in that case, so say let us take the PN junction over here in the forward bias. Okay, so in the forward bias we have say applied this kind of voltage on the P side, positive voltage, on the N side negative voltage. Okay, so with this application of the voltage, what is happening is the holes, they go from p side to n side, and the electrons come from n side to the p side. They're injected actually. Okay, and that's how the current flows. So what happens here, the holes which are injected from p side to the n side, they do not actually just uh, actually travel through the n region, because we have seen actually what happens, this requires a little more thought here. Let us look at that. In the p side, the holes are majority. Okay, let me list here. On the p side, on the n side. Okay, on the p side, holes are majority charge carriers, and on the n side, electrons are majority charge carriers. And on the p side, electrons are minority charge carriers, and holes on the n side, they are minority charge carriers. Okay, uh, there is actually a behavior of the semiconductor. Suppose from somewhere we inject some charge carriers, okay, into some semiconductor. This could be a p type or n type. So suppose we inject minority charge carriers. Minority charge carriers means, suppose we are talking about the p type, then electrons we inject here, okay. Or if we are talking about n type, then holes are injected. So p, in the p type, we are injecting the electrons. Okay, in the p type, electrons are injected, say, and in the n type, the holes are injected. So what happens? Uh, this minority charge carrier which has been injected, before injection, uh, there could be some concentration of this minority charge carrier. Okay, but as soon as this is injected, so at the location of injection, on that end, we will have a higher concentration of this, and at other places we will see a lower concentration. So what we see, there happens a concentration gradient, and because of this concentration gradient, this charge carrier starts diffusing. Okay, so diffusing is a slow process as compared to the drift. Drifting is much faster as compared to the diffusion. So the carriers slowly diffuse across the region, and it tries to make the concentration everywhere homogeneous. Okay, so that's what. But if one is say pumping always carriers here continuously, so there will happen to be say gathering of these charge carriers here. Okay, these charge carriers will seem to be accumulated here, and not diffusing fast, because they are not diffusing fast across this region. Okay, so this is the genesis here in this forward bias PN junction. uh, okay, when the holes are injected, so we see holes in the n side, because they have become minority charge carriers after the injection, and they actually happen to be accumulated there in the n side, the holes. And similarly, electrons from the n side which are injected in the p side, and they happen to accumulate here. Okay, because the diffusion is slow process. So just across this boundary, we see a huge amount of such charges, holes and electrons, holes on the n side and electrons on the p side. And because as we change the voltage, this BD, and the charge, such accumulation of charge grows, and so we again say that this leads to a capacitive kind of nature, and this capacitive the corresponding value of capacitance is actually very large, because the carriers injected are in large number, and the corresponding value of the capacitance resulted so is called as diffusion capacitance, okay, and is called as CD. So in the just be try to understand qualitatively from where the capacitive nature is arising in the PN junction. So we saw that in the reverse bias condition also there is a kind of capacitance because of the depletion region. Uh, okay, but in the depletion region, we can see that the charges are separated by a large distance. Okay, so the N region and P region, they are separated by a large distance. That is W between these the depletion bits. So the capacitance in the reverse bias condition, that is having lower magnitude, whereas in the forward bias condition, the charge carriers across this uh, um, junction, they are they are higher in number, and the corresponding change in this number is also going to be large, and so the corresponding value of the capacitance which we are going to call as diffusion capacitance, this is having larger value. Okay, so now we are in a position to define these uh, quantitatively. So the graph, actually I have written so many things, may not be clear enough, but we can see here that in this curve that when the applied voltage is less than zero, the so-called as CT, okay, transition capacitance is there, and its magnitude we can see is quite low. When applied voltage is larger than zero, so we are in the forward bias, and as the accumulated charges across the junction grows, we can see the diffusion capacitance to grow also. Okay, so diffusion capacitance is very large as compared to the transition capacitance. The equations to compute the transition capacitance is epsilon A upon W, whereas the equation to compute the diffusion capacitance is given by something called as tau id upon eta bt. So tau is the uh, half lifetime period of the carriers, id is the current, and bt is the kt by q thermal equivalent voltage, and eta we know is one for germanium and two for silicon. Now we can also see the derivations of these, but I think the time is not there. So just we can see here how we can derive just in a moment. You can try, I think in the book, okay, the detailed derivation is given. You can try on your own. Okay, so first we can see the transition capacitance derivation is here. Then we can take the PN junction diode here. Okay, so PN junction diode is here. So the questions can be defined as rate of change of charge with voltage change dq by dv. So these equations can be used. So one can define this CT here. Okay, so in this actually we required to find out this dq by db, and there is some estimation of these charges and the uh, depletion bits also. Okay, so we take the help of the Poisson's equation here, and then with the help of some boundary conditions, we try to find out this potential V in terms of this depletion bits here, and then we define this junction of barrier potential like here. We find it here in the approximated case. So approximation here we can see is taken such that um, we are having a large doping on the uh, P side as compared to the N sides. So what is the net effect of this is that the full of the depletion region happens to be on the N side, and there is negligible depletion region on the P side. Okay, so W is mostly due to the penetration or depletion region in the N region, and the boundary conditions are chosen as given here. So assuming that at x is equal to 0, the potential is almost 0 here, and the full potential barrier happens to be that happening on the N side. So it is happening on the N side. Okay, so that is what it is taken, and looking using these relations, one can find out this. So now this charge one can compute after knowing this uh, W here, because we know the doping concentration W, and if we know the cross-sectional area of this PN junction, then we can compute Q, and then we are in a position to compute this dq by dV. So in the dq by dV, we get this quantity dW by dVj, because we have already discussed that the depletion with W changes with Bj, okay, the junction barrier. Okay, so the junction barrier relation one has derived here like this. So one can just try to find out from here dW by dVj. So one can write 1 is equal to Q and D upon 2 epsilon and 2 W dW upon dBj. Okay, so 2 cancels out, and from here dW by dBj one can find out, and it is given here, and substituting this value into this equation, one can get this. Okay, so this is just derivation here. In the derivation, we have assumed that Na is greater than Nd, but if it is not the case, then this Nd, okay, this in the computation of the junction bits here, which we have here W. So here we can write here like this: 2 epsilon Bj upon Q times 1 upon Nd. Okay, so this was the equation when Na is greater than Nd. So Na is neglected. But if Na is not means not too large, then the depletion may be on the p side as well as on the n side, and the total depletion has to be due to the depletion on the n side and the depletion on the p side. So that this can be actually taken by replacing 1 upon nd by this, and one can rewrite the equations. So this is how one can compute the CT here. Similarly, CD also be computed here. Okay. So we will talk about more in the next lectures about calculation of CD. Okay, the time is running out. Okay, so we stop here. You can do yourself this mathematics. Okay, and if there is some difficulty, we can discuss in the next lecture. Now we shall stop here. If there is any query, please ask, else we can disperse.